Segment tonight, public behavior. A couple of weeks ago, two 14-year-old girls, Micah Rich and Jocelyn O'Neill, were on a bus in Portland, Oregon, heading for the Sexual Minority Recreation Center. Two girls began kissing on the bus. A rider complained. The bus driver told the girls to stop. And a short while later, he asked the girls to leave the bus, which they did. That has caused a huge controversy. Joining us now from Portland, KXL radio talk show host Lars Larson and Ronnda Zezula, Micah Rich's mother. Ms. Zezula, we'll begin with you. Do you think this was appropriate behavior on a public bus for two 14-year-old girls to make out? I mean, you know some people would be shocked by that.
Oh, absolutely. Our own family doesn't support public displays of affection from any of our children.
Did you speak to your daughter about it? Did you ask her why she did it and if she understood that some people might be shocked by it?
We have talked to our daughter about it, and she does completely understand why that behavior would be shocking. Unfortunately, she made a bad judgment call, as some kids do. I don't know if any teenager on the planet hasn't done that at one time or another.
Now, is it a particular problem that she's so young? I mean, 14. To come out as a lesbian, because I guess everybody in the school knows that she's gay, that's a pretty rough road. You know, why did she tell people about her sexuality so early?
You know, I don't have the answer to that question because I'm not in my daughter's head, but I do know that she knows my belief that God put me on the planet to protect and care for my children regardless of who they are. So I think that she felt that I would care for her no matter what.
Well, I'm sure you as a mother you would, but I mean, when you say you don't know, I mean, she's heading for, you know, a recreation facility for gay people. She's 14. She's got her girlfriend with her. You know, it's not a high-risk situation in the sense that she's putting herself in any kind of legal jeopardy, but I just think it's a very strong emotional and psychological burden that she's taken upon herself. Do you see my position here?
I do. However, she does have an awful lot of support in her family, in her friends, and in the Sexual Minority Youth Recreation Center. So I do feel like she has the tools that she needs to help her in this journey, and whether she ultimately winds up being a lesbian the rest of her life, that's yet to be determined. But for now, she's my daughter, and I'm here to do everything I can to keep her safe and protected.
Did you advise her not to make her sexuality public?
Not in those words, no. We have tried to tell her that other people don't always understand those choices, and so she needs to really sort of be cautious in how she expresses herself around other people. And unfortunately, kids tend to think that their parents are full of it when they try to lecture them. So I think that's hit home now.
Yeah. All right, Lars, now, the reaction in Multnomah County, as I can read the press reports, is, you know, that these kids are the victims, correct?
Yeah, that's the perception, is that the driver was wrong to kick the two girls off. The problem is that they were engaging in a PDA, and I would say whether they're gay, straight, or otherwise, if you do that kind of thing, the bus driver should have the right to kick you off. The fact is, though, the TriMet, the local transit agency, says drivers don't have the right to kick kids off, even when he drops them at an approved bus stop. And if they're old enough to ride the bus by themselves, they should be old enough to both behave, and if they get kicked off, call mom up and say, Mom, we got kicked off the bus for behaving badly.
Well, the bus driver is a 64-year-old guy, and the union not really backing him. I mean, we called the union and said, look, give me his side of the story. I mean, how disruptive were these two girls, and what was the complaint against them? The union basically is not saying anything. They're just putting the guy out to dry, but we don't know who the guy is, right? You don't know who he is, do you?
No, and we've tried to get a hold of him. I've actually talked to Ms. Zezula. She's a very good spokesperson for her point of view, and we don't disagree that much. She agrees her daughter behaved badly. But I think the union understands it's in a secular, progressive community, very liberal, and they know which side the bread gets buttered on. They understand that this is going to be viewed as a very sympathetic case because the two girls are lesbians.
But
now,
here's
if this
the
had
deal.
been a couple of heteros.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if it would be such a big deal if it were. It should be. But it should be.
Well, it should be because PDA should be unwelcome.
Right. I mean, PDA is public displays of affection. Yep. When it, is intruding on somebody else. If you're sitting next to somebody and they're going at it, I mean, that's kind of tough. But we don't want a double standard here. But you're right, the secular progressives rule Multnomah County, Portland. But your audience, I believe on KXL, is saying, look, this bus driver's getting jobbed here.
That's exactly what they said. They said, look, he should have had the right to say, knock it off. He did. When it appeared that they were going to begin doing it again, and Ms. Zezula explains it was just her daughter being comforted or comforting, but to him it appeared they were going to start necking again. He went back and said, get off.
Are you going to sue?
Absolutely not. No, we don't feel that that's the proper forum for this kind of a thing.
And is there any other, you just want it to go away now, or is there any other action you're going to take?
You know, I would just honestly like to see TriMet do something to help drivers understand that regardless of how they feel, excuse me, about a passenger, they don't have the right to treat them like garbage.
All right. We don't know whether this man did this, a 64-year-old driver. There have been reports that he did say something to the girls, but we don't know that for sure. Ms. Zezula, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it. Lars, as always. Plenty more ahead as a Factor moves.